Hello, I'm doing a movie review, and the movie I want to review is Centipede Horror. Now, Centipede Horror came out in Hong Kong in 1982. Now, I have to say that Centipede Horror is one of the most unique horror films I have ever seen in my life. Now, I first saw this movie a couple of years ago. I actually ordered this out of a DVD catalog, and really it was the title that caught my eye. The title and the cover that really caught my eye, and I was expecting this to be just some B-movie about killer centipedes, and it really is a lot more than that. Like, yes, this movie does have killer centipedes in it, but this movie also has wizards and ghosts and demons and a battle between good and evil and exorcisms. And there's also a surprising amount of character drama in this film as well. Like, this movie has a lot more than you might be expecting from a film titled Centipede Horror. Now, the basic plotline of this movie, and I am boiling it down here, but it's basically about an evil wizard who can control demonic centipedes. Now, the film follows this guy whose sister goes on vacation with her friend in the beginning of the movie, and what happens is they end up getting killed by centipedes. Now, her friend dies immediately, however, she dies a little more slowly. She later dies from her bites in the hospital, but you realize that the reason they died was because they were cursed by this evil wizard. Now, a lot of the movie really focuses on the brother and his girlfriend, and they're trying to figure out what exactly happened to his sister, and eventually they find out that his sister had something called the Centipede Curse. And eventually this guy becomes a target of the evil wizard, and it turns out that the reason this wizard is going after him is because of something that his grandfather did in the past, and basically he's paying for his grandfather's sins, and in the movie his girlfriend ends up getting possessed by a demon, and now his only hope are good magicians who are actively working against the evil wizard. And that's the basic plotline of Centipede Horror. Now, I'm sure that's probably not the kind of plotline you might be expecting for a movie called Centipede Horror. And I really don't think I've seen too many movies quite like this, and there's also ghosts in the movie. Like, there's a scene in the movie where you meet this priest who actually has two ghost children working for him, and the ghost children actually help him with this exorcism where he exorcises this woman of these demonic scorpions. And there's also this epic battle at the end between the main villain and this good wizard. And while it is definitely a horror film, there's also a lot of elements of fantasy as well. Like, I would almost call this just as much a fantasy movie as it is a horror film. Also, a lot of the movie really does sort of play out as a drama about this guy trying to cope with the death of his sister. At the same time, it also plays out as sort of a mystery where he's also trying to figure out what exactly happened to his sister and figure out what exactly is going on with his family. And you see this guy get pulled into this world of the supernatural, this world that he doesn't fully understand. And one thing I really liked about this movie is the villain of the movie is actually kinda sympathetic when you stop to think about it, because I don't want to give away what exactly happened to him, but when you find out what happened to him in the past, you do feel sorry for him, and you understand what drove him to become the monster that you see in present time of this story. And of course, it does have something to do with the main character's grandfather. And in a lot of ways, this is sort of a movie about the child paying for the sins of the father, or in this movie's case, the grandfather. In some way, you could almost compare this to John Carpenter's The Fog, or Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street, which are both movies about the children paying for the sins of their parents. And that's sort of the same theme you have going on here, where you have our protagonist who is paying for his grandfather's sins. Now, I might be reaching way deeper than the filmmakers intended, but I sort of saw a commentary on class systems in this movie. Like, I don't want to give away what the grandfather did to the main villain of the movie in the past, but you sort of got the idea that the grandfather kind of felt like he could get away with what he did because he was sort of from, like, the urban areas of Asia, where the wizard character was from more of like a village, like a small poor village, and you sort of got the idea that the main character's grandfather maybe felt like he could get away with what he did because of his class. Now, that's what I kind of read into it. I don't know if that was actually the filmmaker's intentions or not. Now, I'll admit, I'm hardly an expert on Asian cultures, so I don't know if maybe this movie was making some important social commentary about something that was going on in Asia at the time this movie came out, but that is one social commentary that I sort of read into the film. Now, the highlight of this film is definitely the Centipedes, and at the end of this movie, there's like this assault on the main character's house of centipedes, where an army of centipedes just attack this guy's house, and it's so freaking disgusting because they use real freaking centipedes. And I give the actors and the actresses in this movie all the credit in the world, because they had real centipedes on them and real centipedes coming out of their mouths. Like, I would have been crying like a little bitch. But yeah, Centipede Horror is a really unique film, and I would recommend this if you're into really weird horror films, especially weird foreign horror films. However, I won't recommend this if you're not into gross stuff, because this is a really gross movie, but it's a gross movie that does have a lot of substance to it, and it also has a really unique plotline. Now, my only complaint about this, and it's not really a complaint of the movie itself, but it's actually a complaint of the subtitles on this movie. The subtitles on this film are all white. They're white subtitles, but sometimes they come across a white background, and there are points in this movie where the subtitles are really hard to read, so it's kind of hard to really follow the story because, once again, sometimes the subtitles in this film are borderline impossible to read, actually. But once again, that's not really the movie's fault, it's more so the fault of whoever made those subtitles. But yeah, that was my review on Centipede Horror, and bye.